Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CCISO Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CCISO Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. ISO 275 is a critical standard within the ISO 27 family designed specifically to guide the process of information security risk management. While ISO 271 sets the overall structure for an information security management system, ISO 275 addresses the specific details of how to conduct a risk assessment in support of that system. It provides a structured approach that organizations can use to manage risks related to their information assets in a formalized, repeatable way. The standard is designed for environments that require clear documentation, accountable decision-making, and alignment with broader governance efforts. ISO 275 supports both qualitative and quantitative methods of risk analysis, making it flexible enough for different types of organizations. Whether the business is large or small, in finance or manufacturing, this standard is adaptable and applicable across industries. This makes it an important reference point for CISOs seeking to implement or oversee structured risk assessment processes that satisfy both internal and external expectations. The relationship between ISO 27005 and ISO 27001 is central to understanding how risk management fits into a certified information security program. ISO 27001 lays out the requirement for managing risk as part of an information security management system, but it does not specify exactly how that should be done. This is where ISO 27005 comes in. It provides the methodology and best practices that support ISO 27001's requirements. Risk assessment is a required control activity within an ISSM, and using ISO 27005 helps demonstrate that the process is methodical, repeatable, and effective. The standard also integrates closely with Annex A of ISO 27001, which outlines a catalog of controls. The results of a risk assessment influence the selection of those controls and feed into the statement of applicability. Because ISO 27005 supports a cycle of continuous improvement, it aligns well with the expectations for ongoing ISMS enhancement. It also plays a direct role in certification readiness. Auditors often look for documented use of ISO 27005 or equivalent methods when evaluating an organization's compliance with risk clauses of ISO 27001. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Understanding the key terms defined in ISO 27005 is vital for both exam preparation and real-world application. The standard defines core components like asset, threat, vulnerability, risk, impact, and likelihood in ways that support consistent risk analysis. Assets are anything of value to the organization, including data, systems, and reputation. Threats are potential causes of unwanted incidents, while vulnerabilities are weaknesses that could be exploited. Risk is the combination of likelihood and impact when a threat exploits a vulnerability. The concept of a risk owner is particularly important in ISO 27005. This is the person or entity responsible for ensuring that a specific risk is appropriately managed. A risk treatment plan is the documented strategy for handling that risk. The standard also defines risk criteria, which are the benchmarks used to evaluate whether a risk is acceptable or requires treatment. Residual risk refers to the remaining exposure after controls are applied. Risk analysis and risk evaluation are separate steps. Analysis is about understanding the risk, while evaluation is about deciding what to do about it. A consistent risk taxonomy, where everyone uses the same terms in the same way, is essential for aligning decision-making across teams and departments. The ISO 27005 risk management process follows a clear and logical flow. It begins with risk identification, then moves to risk analysis and risk evaluation, followed by risk treatment. These are the core sequential activities, but two additional processes, risk monitoring and risk communication, run continuously alongside them This reflects the dynamic nature of risk in real-world organizations. Risk identification is about determining what can go wrong. Analysis evaluates the details of each risk. Evaluation decides what level of risk is tolerable. Treatment applies controls or other strategies to reduce the risk. Risk monitoring tracks how risks evolve over time, while communication ensures that decision-makers stay informed. ISO 275 aligns with the Plan, Do, Check, Act lifecycle, reinforcing the idea that risk management should be integrated into ongoing business operations and not treated as a one-time project. Feedback loops help refine the ISSMs, improving future risk assessments and control strategies. Risk identification in ISO 275 is systematic and thorough. The process starts with identifying all information assets and assigning value to each based on its importance to the organization. This includes technical assets like databases and servers, as well as non-technical ones like contracts, intellectual property, or brand reputation. The next step is cataloging potential threats. These might include internal actors, external attackers, environmental events, or technology failures. Once threats are identified, analysts must examine vulnerabilities, weaknesses that might allow those threats to cause harm. This leads to identifying potential unwanted incidents, such as data breaches or system outages, and encourages organizations to consider both internal and external sources of risk, ensuring a complete picture. The primary output of this phase is the risk register, a documented list of identified risks, their associated assets, and preliminary descriptions. The risk register serves as the foundation for all further analysis and treatment activities. Risk analysis involves estimating both the likelihood that a risk will materialize and the impact it would have if it did. Organizations can choose a qualitative approach using categories like high, medium, and low, a quantitative approach using financial values and statistical models, or a hybrid method that combines elements of both. The choice depends on organizational maturity, available data, and the needs of executive stakeholders. ISO 27705 allows for the use of expert judgment, historical incident data, or mathematical modeling. Each identified risk is compared to predefined risk criteria, which provide thresholds for what the organization considers acceptable or unacceptable. Analysts must also factor in the effectiveness of existing controls. If a control reduces the likelihood or mitigates the impact, the risk level will change accordingly. The final output of this phase is the risk magnitude, a value or category that can be used to prioritize treatment activities. Once risk analysis is complete, ISO 275 moves into risk evaluation. This phase involves comparing the magnitude of each risk against the organization's risk criteria to determine which risks are tolerable and which require action. Some risks may be minor and acceptable, while others may be so severe that they demand immediate mitigation. Risks deemed unacceptable are typically escalated to executive stakeholders for decision-making. The organization must also document decisions to accept specific risks, including the rationale behind each choice. These acceptance decisions must be made in a way that aligns with business objectives and risk appetite. For example, a company that values innovation might accept certain development risks that another company would not. Ensuring that business alignment is present in risk acceptance is a critical part of ISO 27005. It prevents miscommunication and supports accountability in risk governance. Risk treatment is the set of actions taken to modify risks. ISO 275 outlines 4 main treatment options. The first is risk mitigation, reducing either the likelihood of a threat occurring or the impact if it does. This often involves implementing new controls, strengthening existing ones, or improving processes. The second is risk avoidance, which means discontinuing activities that generate risk altogether. The third is risk transfer, such as purchasing insurance or outsourcing certain functions under contract terms that include clear service-level agreements. The final option is risk acceptance, where no action is taken beyond documentation and monitoring. Each risk that requires treatment must be addressed with a formal risk treatment plan. These plans describe what will be done, who is responsible, when it will be completed, and how results will be measured. ISO 275 emphasizes the need for maintaining and reviewing these plans over time to ensure they remain effective and aligned with business goals. Monitoring and communication are essential to ensure that risk management remains current and effective. Continuous monitoring helps detect changes in risk exposure caused by new threats, internal changes, or shifting business priorities. The risk register must be updated to reflect new projects, changes in technology, or incident reports. ISO 275 recommends that risk reviews be scheduled regularly, typically in alignment with ISSM's performance evaluations. These reviews should look at whether previous assessments are still valid and whether treatment plans have been implemented successfully. Communication is equally important. Risk posture must be reported to executives and stakeholders in a way that supports understanding and action. This includes formal reports, presentations, and dashboards. Lessons learned from incidents or audit findings should be documented and used to improve future assessments. Risk communication is not just about reporting. It is about ensuring that everyone involved in security and governance understands their role and responsibilities in managing risk. For CCISO exam preparation, familiarity with ISO 275 is highly valuable. Candidates should recognize and apply the standard's core concepts, such as the difference between risk analysis and risk evaluation, or the purpose of a risk treatment plan. Common terminology like residual risk, risk criteria, and risk owner appears frequently in exam scenarios. Many questions focus on planning and selecting treatments based on risk severity and business priority. Candidates are also expected to interpret scenarios that involve alignment between risk activities and strategic goals. ISO 275 supports executive-level decision-making by providing a clear, consistent framework for understanding and responding to risk. Understanding how this standard fits into the broader ISO 27000 family and how it informs ISMS performance, certification, and governance is essential for success on the exam and in professional practice. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal CyberCISO Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.